Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to install something called a spring rider. These are outdoor activities mostly for children in preschools, or you might find them at your restaurants, your local restaurant where they've got play activities for children. Alright, so this is how I installed it and you're welcome to follow this procedure. Right, so here I have some spring riders. I'm just showing you there are various types you can get, and as you can see they have to be installed into the ground, which means you're going to have to put some concrete there and you'll have to use a drill and various other tools which you'll see in the video. This is the anchor, this is what it looks like, and as you can see you're going to have to drill this into the ground, which means that the ground has to be very strong. So in my opinion, you should use concrete, and we'll show you how to do that. Okay, so you're going to want to mark off the area. That's what we've done. We're marking it off here. I should take this one. So this has to be dug out. And my recommendation is to dig it at least half a meter into the ground so that it doesn't move while the children are on it. You can see here I've marked this off the ground. Now I know this is a big area, but keep in mind that these spring riders are pretty heavy duty. So what I've noticed is if when people do not do this properly, you find that the spring rider starts to move because the concrete block becomes loose in the ground. So you want to make quite a big area. This is like 500 by 500. Maybe this is too big, but just to be on the safe side, you could make this a bit smaller. You could make it 400 by 400 by 400. But keep in mind, when you install this in the concrete, it's going to want to open the concrete, so the concrete needs to have space around it, and that is why I've used such a big a block here, so that when we install this, when it's pushing sideways, it does not crack the concrete and just come loose. Okay, so we've already dug it out. This is what the hole looks like, and then obviously you will need what we call crusher, which is river sand and stone mix, and then cement. If you're not sure how to do that, well, you can just have a look at a video on how to make a concrete mix. Simply, you just need to mix some cement. The instructions are on the bag of cement. I recommend 42.5 strength, and then what happens is you just mix it and then make sure the hole is deep enough. I'm showing you here the hole is almost 50 centimeters, so this is what we call overkill. This is very deep and very strong. It's not going to rock. Once we put the concrete mix in here, it's going to be very strong. Right, the final version, there you can see it does need a few days to dry. I recommend no less than 5 days. It also depends on the environment that you're in. In my case, you can see that the carpet grass that I'm using traps a lot of the moisture, so we waited 7 days and it was still moist. So it's up to you, but don't start drilling into that concrete within 5 days. Right, now you will need a drill. I recommend the SDS. It's pretty strong. There we go. And as you can see, this bit is a 12 mil, and that's how I get it right. I measure it. I can see a 12 mil. Remember that as we tighten it, what's going to happen is this is going to open or split this, and it's going to be pushing sideways. So what we've already done, this concrete has already been installed, and now it is dry. So now we're going to drill into it. I'm going to mark it off 1, 2, 3, 4. And install these anchors. I'm using a thinner size bit now just to mark off the hole. I'm getting it right in the center there. Now you can see there are the pilot holes. We've moved the spring rider, but right now we are going to do the pilot holes on the other spring rider, and then we are going to go and follow these holes with the larger size bit. Now we're going to do the pilot holes on the second spring rider. Now another reason for the pilot hole is, I don't know if you noticed, you can't get the drill there nicely, and you don't want to come in at at angles. So now that I've got the pilot holes, I can stand, I can remove the spring rider and come in. Right, now I've made the holes 12 mils. I'm now going to put on a slightly bigger bit. I'm going to put on the size 14 here, and yeah, that's fine. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just threading this like that, so that when I hit this in, this thing does not go and open that. So there we go. There's no movement there. That can go there, and this one just thread it in a bit. There we go. And that one. Right, the next step is to now tighten the spring rider into the concrete by tightening the anchors. Now, in your case, if you're not using this carpet grass, you're pretty much done because you'll just now install it. But in my case, because I'm using this carpet grass, I'm just tightening it first so that when I put the anchor in the threaded rod part, I don't want it to displace the little nut at the bottom, and that has happened to me before. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of tightening it now so that the anchor is actually gets tight in place. So when I'm coming later, you'll see in the video when I'm trying to thread the bolt through, I don't want to bump the nut at the bottom. So that is why I'm tightening it now, or my colleague is tightening it now, and then you'll see what we do in order to get it through the carpet grass. Once it's been tightened, the anchors are in place. They won't just move easily. So now we loosen. So we loosen them now. We're going to move the spring rider, put the carpet grass back, and then we can now install those bolts without bumping the nut at the bottom. So you can see we're now taking the threaded rod part out, and then when we insert it through the carpet grass, we won't bump it, because that's what can happen, is that nut inside the concrete now that we've just installed might be displaced while we're fiddling, and then we won't be able to get it. So this is just a way of like securing it in the concrete, so when we do try and fiddle, we won't knock it out of place. Right, so now what you're going to do is you're going to close it. Okay, so now what we're doing is we are going to put the carpet grass in place, and we are going to try and line up the place where we make the holes so that the spring rider can sit on top, and we can install the threading of the anchors
the slots that or the drilled holes that we've done. So this is quite tricky because obviously you have to go back and forward. I do recommend you cut holes, but I don't like to cut big holes in the carpet grass, because once you've cut it, there's nothing you can do. It's cut, it's finished. So I'm just making holes. I might even drill it, and then we're going to line it up, and then after that we will just push the screw part of the anchor through. And that's why I was saying that I first tightened the anchor earlier. You saw me tightening it, and the reason is because we can't see what we're doing now through the carpet grass. What happens is when we push the nut, the bolt through, we don't want to offset or bump the anchor part, the anchor nut that's already in the concrete. So as you can see now, we're lining it up, and just be careful. I did hammer it there, but just be careful. Try not to do that because you might knock out the nut of the anchor. So the next step now is to just fasten them in, and I'll step ahead. Now, this can be quite tricky getting the alignment done because obviously you can't see. So we've managed to make holes and we've aligned it up, and now we're tightening them one by one. Just be careful that you don't over tighten this. You don't want to break the head off the anchor. These are not high quality anchors that come with the Spring Rider. I was a bit unimpressed with these anchors, so it's maybe not a bad idea to go to your local hardware and get high quality, maybe Roll brand anchors that might be better because they have a spring that holds the securing nut at the bottom so it won't fall in. It might save you a bit of time. All right, so what we're doing is my colleague is now just tightening it, and remember that if your concrete is wet, well then you will be you might find that the concrete will crack. So my advice to you is just tighten it, but don't make it very tight, and you can always come back and add some extra torque to that nut. Right, so there you see the finished product. It's very important to do your testing, and as you can see, I'm now going to test it. They made for about 45 kilograms. I'm 90 kilograms, and as you can see, there is no movement in the concrete slab, and doing a test like this is merely just qualitative, but you want to measure something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fingers on the ground and see if there's any movement at all while my colleague is on the horsey there, on the Spring Rider, and I'm seeing that there is no movement. And remember that you can always tighten more later. Remember, it is in concrete. The concrete you've done might still be wet, so just keep these things in mind. Check it. Wait a few days, check it again, make sure there's no movement on those nuts, and then you're done. So this is how you install these Spring Riders, and thanks for watching. I'll show you one or two pictures of the finished job. Right, there the riders in place. As you can see, all solid, and there's a closer look at the fitting itself. Thanks for watching. Cheers.